Hello friends, Rabbi Jacques Kukierkorn to speak to you about the Parsha of this week, which is Naso. Torah portion begins with Naso, the first significant word, which is a commandment from God to Moses to count, to make a census of the Israelites. And it's an interesting word that's used is Naso, which means to lift up, to raise. And kind of funny, or interesting at least, that the word naso, to raise up, is also the basis for the Jewish word for a wedding, a marriage. Nisuim it comes from naso. Perhaps because during a wedding we raise up the bride and groom in a chair, we dance around with them. No, not really. It's a much later custom. Much later tradition, but rather because when we marry somebody, we should raise that person above all others. We make a public commitment to that person is going to be the most important one in our lives. And this idea, in fact, I think is crucial for maintaining good marriages. And there's a fantastic story about that, about making your spouse the most important person in your life, that I always knew. I believe many 20 some years ago I may have told that to a friend, and curiously during this past week I had the opportunity to talk with that friend after not having spoken with her in many years, and she told me that story impacted on her so much that when she got married she created her own ceremony and she told that story. So what's the story? It's in the Midrash, story about a couple in Sidon, which I assume was nowhere's Lebanon, of a couple that got married. And then, according to Jewish tradition, it's a mitzvah, it's an obligation for a man to have children, but not for a woman. The mitzvah for procreating is incumbent upon the man. So after 10 years of being married and not having children, they went to the rabbi, and the rabbi, who apparently was Shimon Bar Yochai, the famous one to whom the Sefer HaZohar, the main book of Kabbalah, is attributed. He really didn't write it. It was Moshe de Leon, and he said Shimon Bar Yochai wrote this. But that's another story. He told them, okay, if you're going to do that. However, if you're going to get divorced, you need to, just as when you came together, you had a big party, you should have a big party to separate, because you're not separating under bad circumstances. They go home, they're talking. He tells her, you know, wife, again, I'm not doing this because I don't love you, I don't like you, we have never not gotten along, so much so that I wanted to have a big party, and when the party is over, you are welcome to take anything from my house. As you go back to your father's house, you can take anything you want from here, anything that's precious to you. She arranges this big party, lots of food, gives him lots to drink, so much that he gets drunk, he falls asleep. When he falls asleep, she tells the servants, take a big basket, put him inside the basket, take him to my father's house. That's the only thing I wanted to take from this house. Now, in the middle of the night, he's groggy, he wakes up from his drunken stupor, and she's right there, and he says, what's going on, where am I? She says, you are my father's house. What am I doing here? Husband, didn't you tell me that I could take from your house to bring to my father's house anything that was precious to me? The only thing that was precious in that house for me was you. What a story, huh? So, and apparently, the story ends even better, because apparently then Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai heard about them and prayed on their behalf to God, and they were blessed with many children. Great story, huh? So, I hope to see you. Come to temple on Friday. It would be great to see you. and Shabbat Shalom.